Hey guys, Tyler here, and thanks for checking out my video. And 9.1 is finally here. I'm so excited to bring you guys another Marksman Hunter guide, and this time it will be, of course, for 9.1 and Chains of Domination. So this video is going to be updating any of the previous guides for Shadowlands so far, and it will be for those that are picking up Marksman Hunter for the first time, or those of you guys that are coming back to the spec. I will do my best to give you all the information that you need to succeed and do well on our favorite class. So, let's get started.
Mr. Eggplant presents.
Like with all my other guides, I will have timestamps down below, and I will segment the video, that way you guys can look for a certain part if that's what you're interested in. And then also I will update this as things change. Things do change throughout the tier, and be sure and look in the description of the video or a pinned comment, and I will put all of the changes down there. So like I said, there was not too many 9.1 changes for BM or for Marksman Hunter. In fact, I could only think of one meme that was going on through my head as I was reading what limited patch notes they've given us so far.
World with smiles, and this is where
Marksman change.
If I had one! Sorry, that's the happy, but the happy's back.
So that meme was pretty much running through my head the entire time I was reading what little notes they have on Hunters. So really quick, we can go ahead and talk about Marksman Hunter changes for 9.1. The main changes were going to be to a couple of the Covenant abilities, and then also for PvP. So for the Covenant abilities, the main changes were the Death Chakram, which is the Necrolord ability that's basically like Glaive Toss that bounces and gives you back focus and increases damage as it bounces. So now it just properly bounces to targets that are not directly in front of you. So if you're in melee range, off to the side, and maybe even behind you, it will bounce to those if they are within range. The other changes were with Pelagos, the combat meditation. So whenever you use your resonating arrow, that amount of mastery you get, it was reduced by 10%. I really don't get that. That must have kind of been PvP oriented, but I really don't like that one in comparison to Naya's anyway, but it was reduced by 10%. And then Naya, she was also nerfed just a little bit with her Naya's Tools Burrs, which is basically, it was doing a little bit more than a trinket's worth of DPS, which is like 2 or 3% of your overall DPS in a single target fight, but that dot's damage was reduced by 8%. I was reading some comments over on the forums, and people are thinking like it's just completely dead now. It is not. It's just a little bit lower. I still think the 8% isn't a terrible nerf. And then as for PvP, we saw a couple of new talents. I did want to highlight a few of them, and then one small change. So the small change is going to be with our Steady Shot. So now it deals 40% more in PvP combat. It did kind of hit like a wet noodle. That's going to help us a little bit, and then that will kind of couple with the next ability, which is a new marksman only PvP talent, which is Consecutive Concussion. So, Concussive Shot now slows the movement of your target by an additional 20%, so it's a decent slow now. Get rid of those pesky warriors on your tail, but using your Steady Shot 3 times on a concussed enemy now stuns them for 4 seconds. Marksman Hunter did not have a single stun, so it was really nice to have that in our toolkit. It'll be a little bit of a setup, but if you can do it, that'll really help burst situations if you're wanting to switch targets or get on a healer. And then other talents were a brand new PvP talent, which is the Chimeral Sting. So basically they took out the other 3 venoms, which was Scorpid, Spider, and Viper Venom, and they were all coupled into one talent, which is Chimeral Sting. So it stings the target, dealing nature damage and initiating all 3 of the venoms. Each lasts 3 seconds and imply their different effect after the first one ends. So first off, it will be Scorpid Venom is 90% reduced movement speed, then Spider Venom, which silences the target, and then Viper Venom, which 20% reduced damage and healing, which will be really nice. And then one of the other PvP talents that I will be running, which is going to be Hunting Pack, since they kind of buffed it even more. So now it grants the entire aspect of the cheetah effect to allies within 15 yards. So just think of it like a Hunter Roar, for lack of a better term. It's really nice because it was only giving you 3 seconds of the 90% increased movement speed that we would get, and then we would continue on with the movement speed and your allies would not, and you'd usually run past them. Now you can use it as a boost for your entire group, which will be really nice, and I definitely could see that being really important in RBGs, and just a little bit more movement overall, which movement can be king. So one of the first things we do here in Shadowlands is to choose a Covenant, and there are 4 different ones. There is the Night Fae, the Kyrian, the Necrolords, and of course the Venthyr. So you have 4 different options, and then right up front I will say, if I say that one is better than another, that doesn't mean you can't play the others. They're just not as optimal. But if you want to play Necrolord, be a Necrolord Marksman Hunter. Or if you want to play Venthyr, go ahead and play that. Like, just play what you'd like to play and have fun with it, because this is a game after all. But if you are looking to min-max your character, so for Raid and for Mythic Plus, the best Covenant to choose is going to be Kyrian. So this was formerly the Night Fae with Nadjia, as you can see down there below, which is still the second best, and is actually still competitive at the Renown level 40, which is currently what was capped before 9.1. Now, with buffs to Pelagos and then eventually Mikanikos, we will see a transition. You'll see more of your players playing Kyrian, particularly those who are already for PvP, and then of course for PvE. So the main ability for a Kyrian Marksman Hunter is going to be your Resonating Arrow. What Resonating Arrow does is you throw down a circle on the ground, much like you do with Volley, and you have a 1-minute cooldown on this ability, and it gives you a 30% bonus chance to crit while you're attacking a target in the circle. And that's on top of whatever crit you have right now. So for example, for easy numbers, if you do have a 20% chance to crit right now, while you're attacking targets in the circle, you have a 50% chance to crit, which is really nice, and it definitely works well when coupled with double tap, and then of course with your volley, explosive shot, and true shot. So you want to make sure and line those up as best possible. The one downfall to the ability is it's only up for 10 seconds. Where Night Fae, it's up for 15, and then you can add an additional time to it. With the Kyrian, you cannot. And then another perk, which is one of the main reasons it's used in PvP, is that while a target is in the circle or for 4 seconds after they've left the circle, you do not need line of sight to attack them. So no more pillar humping, that sort of thing. It's really nice and definitely usable in PvE, Raid, Mythic Plus, and then in PvP in arenas and battlegrounds. And then also the other ability that you get is the File. It's the File of Serenity. Basically what that does is it gives you you can carry 3 of them at one time, and you get those from the follower that it provides you, which is pretty cool. You can kind of pick and choose which follower you want with them. They can get you your bank, they can change your talents once every, I think, like 6 hours. And then one of the other abilities, which is Forge Light Filter, which you get with Mikanikos, where that will automatically proc when you get below a certain threshold, which is really nice. And as you can see there, it becomes stronger as you go through once you reach Mikanikos at Renown level 48, and then again at Renown level 57. It really becomes the best Covenant by then, but for now, if you are still a Night Fae Marksman Hunter or you are a Pelagos Kyrian Hunter, that is completely fine. I would stick with them until you get up to the Renown level 48, then that's when you want to make your switch. And then of course, like I said, for PvP, it's also Kyrian. The second best is still going to be Night Fae with Nadjia. We've kind of talked about that quite a bit here on the channel, where she is just pretty strong still. She keeps up with Pelagos at Renown level 40, but as we start getting more Renown levels, she does kind of fall out of favor, and so does Night Fae, which I'm going to be sad because I'm going to really miss my soul shape. But it is what it is, and that will be the best Covenant to choose from. But like I said, you can play any of the others if you'd like. This is a game, if you're wanting to just have fun, do some quests, enjoy your hunter, anything will work just fine. And the first Covenant we're going to look at is the Night Fae, and if you are going to be a Night Fae Marksman Hunter, you want to make sure and choose Nadjia. So for the Potency Conduit, you want to pick Spirit Attunement, which makes your Wild Spirits last 3 seconds longer, and then do increased damage while it's up. The Finesse Conduit you want to pick up is Reversal of Fortune. Whenever you successfully interrupt an enemy, it gives you X amount of focus, which is just really nice for PvP and PvE situations. And then you need to pick up 2 Endurance Conduits to get Nadjia's Burrs down at the bottom. So this one you can kind of pick and choose 2 of the 4, either Harmony of the Tortolan, Markman's Advantage, Rejuvenating Wind, and Resilience of the Hunter. I tend to pick Markman's Advantage and then also Rejuvenating Wind, but that's really up to you. Harmony of the Tortolan can be really good if you need that little bit of a cooldown on your aspect of the turtle. So in 9.1, we did get some additions to our Soulbind trees. So for Nadjia, for the new Potency Conduit we get, I would choose either Powerful Precision or Deadly Chain. Powerful Precision is better for single target, and Deadly Chain is better for AoE. And what Powerful Precision does is your next precise shots, whether that be Arcane, Multi, or Chimera, is increased by a percentage of damage. And then Deadly Chain is your trick shot damage with your rapid fire, or your aim shot is increased by a percent. From there, you can choose either Called Shot or Survivor's Rally. I prefer Called Shot just because I like the endurance conduits over the finesse for hunters, but this is really your choice. So Called Shot, whenever you crit, you gain movement speed for 5 seconds. In Survivor's Rally, whenever you fall below 50% health, you regain 20% of your health over 10 seconds and then receive additional healing. This is really up to you. If you want survivability, go with Survivor's Rally. If you want movement speed, go with Called Shot. And then of course we have the new capper trait, which is Bonded Hearts. So gaining a stack of redirected anima from Grove Invigoration heals up to 5 nearby allies for 2% of their health, and if any of those affected allies are from another covenant, which they should be, at least a couple of them, redirected anima's mastery and maximum health are increased by 50% for 5 seconds, which is just increasing damage. It gives us more health, makes us a little bit more beefy, more tanky, and of course mastery equals do more damage. So this is a pretty good trait. So with changes in 9.1, we do see a big shift in covenants for the first time. So this is going to be for your Kyrian Marksman Hunter. So currently at renown level 40, you still want to run with Pelagos. We are going to eventually transition to Mikanikos, which is actually the best one for all covenants, all Soulbinds right now, at later renowns, of course. But for right now, if you are level 40, up until you reach 48, which is when you can get your first big ability with Mikanikos, I would still suggest running with Pelagos with the standard build we had from the previous patch. But as soon as we get to renown level 48, you do want to go ahead and move to the Forge Light Prime Mikanikos. So for him, the first ability there is called Bronze Call. Whenever you use 75 abilities, or attacks, heals, that sort of thing, he will call Brawn down and he will do damage for 30 seconds, which is really nice. From there, you do want to go ahead and pick up Enfeebled Mark, which just increases the damage taken while an enemy is in your Resonating Arrow, which is basically where all of your damage is going to be, for the most part. From there, then you want to pick the Forge Light Filter, which is what I kind of talked about earlier. Basically, once you reach a certain threshold, it will automatically use one of your files. That way, you don't die, and it's probably because you really needed it there. From there, then you can pick your first Finesse Conduit, which will, of course, be Reversal of Fortune. That just whenever you interrupt a target, or successfully, I should say, you gain X amount of focus, and at 252 item level, I believe it goes all the way up to 13 focus already for an interrupt. So that is really nice. It's actually almost an arcane shot worth of focus. Then from there, we do want to go ahead and pick up Resilient Plumage. It just lowers fall damage by 1%, and then you gain an Absorb Shield after that. And from there, you'll go ahead and pick your first Endurance Conduit. You can choose between either Resilience of the Hunter, Marksman's Advantage, or Rejuvenating Winds. I tend to run with any of those three. It's kind of your personal choice. If you're trying to min-max, Resilience of the Hunter is going to be the best because it does every 30 seconds give you a lower amount of damage taken, because whenever you pop up from your feigned death, 8 seconds after that you take a percentage less damage. Marksman is just if you have a target marked with your hunter's mark, then they just do a percentage less to you. And then Rejuvenating Winds, all that does is just give you an increased amount of heal from your exhilaration over the next 8 seconds after you use the ability. And this last row is where it kind of gets confusing, because as it sets right now at renown level 40, Mikanikos doesn't actually have any good bottom talents. They're just not that good in comparison to Pelagos or even compared to Naya. But if you want to go ahead and get the Potency Conduit, I would put Sharpshooter's Focus in there. Or if you're going to pick the Endurance Conduit, I would go ahead and pick one of the above mentioned, the Resilience, the Marksman, or the Rejuve Winds that you didn't pick before. Because the Soulsteel Clamps does not really help you at all damage-wise, that's the one below the Potency Conduit. But the one there in the middle is actually good for AoE, which is Hammer of Genesis. So whenever you attack a new target, it gives you 3% haste, and that stacks up to 5 times. That'll be really good in AoE, and that'll actually help your build as we move into the 9.1 addition to Mikanikos. And then the new 9.1 Soulbinds for Mikanikos is really what brings Kyrian to the forefront. So you do get a new Potency Conduit, and then you'll get a new Endurance Conduit as well. So for the first Potency Conduit, you basically want to pick whatever you didn't pick above. So it's either going to be Powerful Precision for single target, Sharpshooter's Focus if you haven't picked that already, or Deadly Chain for AoE. From there, then you get to pick one of the new traits. The two new traits are Reactive Retrofitting, which is just an Absorb Shield. It's really not that good, unfortunately. And the other one is going to be Soul Glow Spectrometer, which is really good. So what that one does, which will be the one that you want to pick, is damaging or healing a target analyzes its merit over 15 seconds and increases your damage or healing to it by 1%, increasing by an additional 1% every 3 seconds. So every 15 seconds, you can pretty much increase your damage on a target. And it says cannot start a new analysis until a previous one has finished. That is a really good amount of damage. And then you'll go ahead and pick the Soul Glow Spectrometer, like I said, and then you get an Endurance Conduit once again. So basically, I was kind of leading to this. You're going to run all three of them. You're going to run with the Resilience of the Hunter, Rejuvenating Winds, and Marksman's Advantage. You just need to figure out which spot it's going to go in. And then the Capper trait, which is really what makes Mikanikos amazing, the Effusive Anima Accelerator, which is really nice. So whenever you use your Resonating Arrow, it releases a blast of overcharged anima at your target's location, and it deals a percentage of arcane damage split evenly between all targets over 8 seconds. And for a certain number of enemies hit up to a maximum of 5, it will reduce the cooldown of your ability, which will be up to 20 seconds off. So this is just really good because Mikanikos isn't really good at all until you hit these next thresholds for 9.1, but when we do, you can definitely see the damage increase. We do lose all the extra mastery that Pelagos and Naya gives, but Mikanikos overall, unless he sees some nerfs, will pretty much be the choice to go with for your Soulbind in 9.1, and it is the best one overall. If you want to pick Necrolord, I would suggest picking the Bonesmith. The first Potency Conduit you want to run with is going to be Sharpshooter's Focus, which increases the duration of your True Shot. From there, the Finesse Conduit you want to pick is, once again, a Reversal of Fortune. It's by far the best of all of the Finesse Conduits. Then from there, 2 more Endurance Conduits. We've already talked about that. I prefer Marksman's Advantage and Rejuvenating Wind for most situations. And the new Soulbinds for the Bonesmith are pretty much going to be much like the other two. So for the new Potency, you get either Powerful Precision, or Deadly Chain, or even Necrotic Barrage. Necrotic Barrage is the flavor one for your ability that you get, which is the Chakram, but I would choose either Powerful Precision or Deadly Chain. If you're looking for AoE, increased damage, Deadly Chain, single target, Powerful Precision. From there, you get 2 new traits, either Carver's Eye or Waking Bone Breastplate. And this one, much like Pelagos, is just no chance that you're going to pick Waking Bone Breastplate. Because what Carver's Eye does is damaging an enemy above 90% health, which, if you're running with careful aim, means that's where we're going to be doing the most damage possible in a fight. Where you're damaging an enemy above 90% health, you gain 199 mastery for 5 seconds and stacks up to 5 times. And then from there, since you did pick the Carver's Eye, you'd pick an Endurance Conduit of either Harmony of the Tortolan or Resilience of the Hunter. And then the Capper trait for the Necrolord is going to be Mnemonic Equipment. When you damage an enemy that is below 35% health, 3% of the damage done is repeated over 5 seconds. It's kind of like a bleed, it sounds like. And then healing an ally grants them the ability to have their damage repeat this way at 30% effectiveness for 5 seconds. And it's good to see that they're giving a little bit more damage to Necrolord Marksman Hunters, because if the numbers are still correct, they are the lowest played hunter, or at least Marksman Hunter right now. And then finally, if you're going to pick Venthyr, I would pick Nadjia the Mistblade. The potency you want to run with is Empowered Release. It just gives your Flayed Shot an additional chance to proc Flayer's Mark and increases the damage of your next kill shot. From here, this is the only tree where you get 2 Finesse Conduits, so I would pick Reversal of Fortune for the Interrupt, and then also, it's really up to you. I tend to like Cheetah's Vigor, but that's really it's a personal preference. And then the one Endurance Conduit is your choice as well. I just prefer Markman's Advantage. Rejuvenating Wind is really good as well, particularly if you're just, doing quest, that sort of thing. And the 9.1 Soulbind tree changes for Nadjia. So everybody got a new potency conduit spot, and then much like everybody else, you will want to choose either Powerful Precision or Deadly Chain. Powerful Precision is for single target, Deadly Chain is for AoE. Then you get to choose between two different new traits. One is Nimble Steps, where enemies within 8 yards are slowed by 10%, and if you fall below 35% health, those enemies within 8 yards are also rooted for 4 seconds. That would be good in PvP most likely, but the other one is going to be Sinful Preservation. Health Potions and Health Stones grant you an Absorb Shield equal to 50% of the amount healed. It doesn't sound like that shield decays either, so that could be really good. Really, neither of those are really OP by any means, but I would choose Sinful Preservation there for a raid situation or a Mythic Plus situation, and then that will allow you to get, once again, a new Finesse. I think they have 3 of the 4 Finesse conduits for the Venthyr, and I would choose Tactical Retreat because you've already got 2 above that, and that one's the better one of the 2 that you have remaining. And then the Capra trait for Nadjia is going to be Fatal Flaw. So when the haste effect from Euphoria ends, you gain 10 seconds of either 20% increased critical strike or versatility, whichever you currently have more of. If you are in a PvP situation, it's probably going to be versatility, which would be really good since you do stack versatility, or in most situations it will end up being an increased 20% increased critical strike chance, which could also be really good. We might see a few people moving to Necrolord or moving to Venthyr, away from the 2 flavors of the month, more so of Naya in the Night Fae than Pelagos and the Kyrian, but I look forward to seeing hopefully a few more people playing these other Soulbinds and these other Covenants. Now that we've got Covenants behind us, let's go ahead and go to our stat priority. So in Shadowlands, still like every other expansion, weapon DPS is king. It doesn't matter what the secondaries are on the weapon, as long as it does more DPS, it just increases your damage by that much more. Followed by agility, then crit strike, mastery, haste, and then versatility. But of course, if you are PvPing, versatility is more important secondary stat. You want to be running with like 20% plus. The more the better. It just means you do more damage and then you take less damage. And of course, those trinkets will also buff the amount of versatility you have. And of course, if you are someone who is new to the spec and you're struggling in PvE with your focus regeneration, I would suggest adding more haste. I currently run with 7 to 9%, but I would never go more than 15% haste because it's really kind of wasted at that point. So before we get into our opener and then our rotation, let's go ahead and talk about our talents for both AoE and single target. We don't have too many options, unfortunately, right now. I'm hoping 9.1 changes that. But for single target, you want to run with Master Marksman and then Careful Aim. From here, I like to run with Trailblazer when I'm just in the open world, and then Camouflage whenever I'm in Arena. But then I would choose Natural Mending if you're in a raid situation, then Steady Focus, Post Haste, but this is one that you can choose. I either choose Born to be Wild if it's needed, or Post Haste. For example, if you don't need to get out of roots, I would run with Born to be Wild. In the level 45, I would do Double Tap, and then of course level 50, I would do Lock and Load. Calling the Shots, if they change some legendaries around, might be viable later on in the expansion, but for right now, Lock and Load is the way to go. And then as for AoE, it doesn't really change too much. In an AoE situation, you still run with Master Marksman, then Explosive Shot. This one is again something that you can choose. I still prefer Trailblazer in Overworld, and then Natural Mending in a raid or in a Mythic Plus situation. Then I would run with Streamline, which increases your damage of rapid fire and makes your aim shots cast faster the next one after your rapid fire. Here you can also choose. I would choose Post Haste though in Mythic Plus situations, particularly if you're running places like Mists. You can get out of a lot of roots in there. Then here at level 45, still run with Double Tap, and then at level 50, I would run with Volley. So in choosing a legendary here in 9.1, marksman hunters do have a couple of new options. Unfortunately, they don't really stack up to these previous two, but you can see the new ones here on the screen right now. The two that we're going to talk about though, your two options, are going to be Serpent Stalker's Trickery and Surging Shots. Serpent Stalker's drops off of the third boss in Plaguefall, and it's really good for single target situations. You want to make sure and put it on your ring, that way you get all those secondary stats, and you want to put crit and mastery on it. And basically what it does is every time you cast your aim shot, it applies Serpent Sting to your target, and you don't have to run with the talent for Serpent Sting. It will do roughly 7 to 9% of your damage overall, which is pretty nice. It does, as long as you keep it up on the target constantly, it does do some pretty good damage, even in AoE situations. But if you are looking for an AoE legendary, Surging Shots is probably your better bet, particularly if you are a Kyrian marksman hunter. It couples really well with our Streamline, which we will be running in an AoE situation, and it does work well with Enfeebled Mark and Resonating Arrow that you get with your Kyrian marksman hunter. So basically what Surging Shots does, first off, you do want to put it on the neck piece, much like the ring, to give you all those secondary stats, and then pick crit and mastery on the item itself. But what Surging Shots does is it increases the damage of your rapid fire, and then it did get buffed in 9.0.5. And then also, whenever you use your aim shot, you have a 15% chance to refund the remaining cooldown of your rapid fire. You get quite a few extra rapid fires throughout an entire run. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it will make your rapid fire be like your number 2 damage dealing ability, or maybe 3 if you're running with your explosive shot. So it's definitely worth picking up one of these two legendaries. I have rank 4s of both right now, and they will soon be rank 5 and 6 9.1 launch. So this section is going to be all about the new legendary bow that drops for hunters in 9.1 from the Sylvanas fight. And it is, like I said, a legendary bow, which does not go against your legendary cap, and does reward the feat of strength for the bow, which is the Raishalar Death's Whisper, which is a unique model. So I definitely want to use it. It is definitely inspired by the Jailer. It is pretty cool looking. It appears to drop from normal, heroic, and mythic, and there are ways you can upgrade it if you do manage to get the normal version. There is a sinew that drops for heroic, and then an ethereal fletching that drops for mythic. That way you can upgrade the bow. And the bow does have crit and haste on it, and has been buffed fairly significantly. In fact, it's now hit, as of the weekend before 9.1's drop, it has been buffed 3 different times. So I'm hoping that means the drop rate of the bow will be fairly decent. I'm even hoping like a 5 to 10% chance. I know that would probably be a little much for a legendary, but both marksman and BM, at least for single target, as of top item levels in Castle Nathria, are kind of in the bottom third, but that's also just for orange parses and mythic, so your average player is not going to reach that, but it has been buffed fairly significantly for the 3rd time. Give you a point of view, so basically what it does is it's a crit, haste bow, which gives you an on-use ability. It basically gives you a new ability called Wailing Arrow, which is a kind of a flavor ability from Sylvanas. So it fires an enchanted arrow, dealing X% of your attack power as shadow damage to your target, and then an additional amount of attack power as shadow damage to all enemies within 8 yards of your target, which will be amazing for Mythic Plus. And then any targets struck by the arrow are silenced for 5 seconds. So the reason I said X amount of attack power, the original amount that they gave was 92.5% of your attack power, and then 37.5 for the AoE version. It has been buffed not once but twice, so now it is up to 277.5% of our attack power and 112.5% for the AoE bit of it. This thing is just hitting like a truck now. So that is really nice. We'll see if those numbers stick around. We'll see what the drop rate is. We're really not sure. I don't think it'll be like the Amanthul trinket at the very end raid in Antorus, because that was like a 2% chance. Like, why bother? Because it was really OP. This one will be interesting. I do hope to get my hands on it so I can really give you guys some good information on that. But with them buffing it 3 times, you think that it's supposed to kind of shore up any problems that hunters hunters have right now until they can deal with it either later in this patch or later in the expansion. Next, we need to look at our opener and our rotation. It's very, very important and vital for marksman hunters to get this right to do the most DPS possible. So I will split this up between single target and for AoE. I'll do both an opener and rotation for each, and then I will show you guys a video of myself on my marksman hunter doing both openers. So as for the single target opener, I would pre-cast double tap with 10 seconds left on your pull timer, and then pre-cast aim shot with 2.5 seconds left. That way, when your aim shot hits the boss, it's going to be right at 0 and you're ready to go. Then I would steady shot times 2, that way you have your steady focus buff up for the duration of the opener. Then I would use Wild Spirits and then True Shot. If you are a Kyrian hunter, I would swap those, so I would use True Shot, then Resonating Arrow, because True Shot's the longer cooldown, so it'll be up for the duration of Resonating Arrow. And then of course in my True Shot, I do have it macroed to where it uses my On-Use Trinket, which is a 2-minute trinket, as well as my Racial, which is also 2 minutes. So we'll talk about that in the macro section of this video. From there, then you'll go aim shot, rapid, aimed, steady, rapid, aimed, and then finally ending it up with an arcane shot, which is usually like right at the last second, which will be empowered and still do some good damage. So after the opener, we have a rotation priority. I wouldn't necessarily say it's a true blue rotation. First off, you want to make sure and keep your steady focus haste buff up at all times. I like to shoot for at least 85% uptime, particularly on like a single target boss. I could even get to 90 or 92 or so. Then I would double tap on cooldown. You use it on aim shot unless you are running with the Surging Shots legendary. Then I would use it on your rapid fire. Then I would use True Shot and Wild Spirits, or True Shot and your Resonating Arrow on cooldown. I would use them together if you are Night Fae. I would use it every other one, obviously, if you are Kyrian. Then use all your empowered arcane shots whenever you're outside of your True Shot window. Make sure you don't waste those. Use your rapid fire on cooldown. Don't let your aim shots cap out on charges, which is usually not an issue. It feels like it drags on forever. And then of course, steady shot in pairs as needed for your focus regeneration. Now let's move into our AOE opener, and this is just assuming that you have all of your cooldowns up for the pull. I would explosive shot, then double tap, Wild Spirits, volley, then True Shot. And of course, True Shot is also macroed into my trinket and then my racial, so that's when I would use those. Then aim shot, rapid fire, aimed, then your volley will have dropped off, so then you have to use your multi shots, then aimed, then multi, rapid fire, multi, and then finally aim shot. And like I said down there below, if you are Kyrian, I would just swap Resonating Arrow for Wild Spirits, and I would use True Shot 3rd and Resonating Arrow 5th. And now we have our AOE Rotation Priority. So this is, again, not necessarily a rotation, it's just more of a priority system, and it really has been for Marksman Hunters since, I think, at least Legion. So you want to use Explosive Shot on cooldown. It is one of your biggest CDs every 30 seconds. Use your True Shot in Wild Spirits or True Shot in Resonating Arrow on cooldown. Use them together as much as possible. Use your Volley on cooldown and multi-shot before casting Rapid Fire or aimed whenever 3 targets are present and you don't have the Volley Trick Shots buff. Rapid Fire on cooldown. Don't let your aim shots once again cap on charges. Use all of your empowered arcane, multi, or chimera shots, whatever you may be using there. And then finally, steady shot as needed for your focus regeneration. So this next section of the video is going to be all about the Shards of Domination. And Shards are brand new for 9.1, and they are a gem slot that will appear on gear from the Sanctum of Domination raid. So there's not a ton known about these. I will go ahead and tell you guys what I do know now, and what I will be aiming to get here in 9.1. But if anything ever gets changed, all that information will be found in the description of the video, since I can't actually change the video itself. So since we are playing a Marksman Hunter, so you have 5 different slots that can have a Shard of Domination gem slot. So for male users, it will be helms, shoulders, and chest. That's for everybody. And then belt and boots for us. So you see shoulder is one of these pieces, and you don't want to be wearing your legendary shoulder now, which is kind of, where everybody's getting kind of upset at Blizzard right now. Hopefully they do get that ironed out. But we will want to put a Shard of Domination gem, I should say, on your helm, shoulder, chest, belt, and boots, because they do augment your power. So the shards that I'm going to be shooting for are going to be the Unholy Shards of Domination, because if there's 3 of each one, so there's a total of 9 different ones. We can kind of go over those really quick. For the Unholy, there is one that damages a target, increasing your damage done to that target by 0.33% for 4 seconds, and then stacks up to 3 times. And there are ranks of each of these as well, as you can see in the video here. The next shard, your helpful spells and abilities have a chance to grant your target an aura, draining health from nearby enemies, I should say, every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. And then the final one just increases your speed by 27, which does not sound like a lot, but if you get all 3 of one single type of shard, you get what is called a rune word empowerment. And basically you get this set bonus while you're in Torghast, while you're in the Maw, or while you're in the raid, which is really important. And so the Unholy Shard of Domination set bonus is called Chaos Bane, where it says, while inside the Maw or Torghast, your spells and abilities have a chance to drain a soul fragment from your target, granting you 10 of your main stat for 30 seconds, stacking up to 15 times, which is good enough for better than a flask at that point. And then once you reach your 15 stacks, you unleash a Chaos Bane, dealing 1500 shadow damage split between all nearby enemies, and granting you 300 of your primary stat for 15 seconds. And that does proc 8 times, but it does go up based on your haste, which is really important. The other set bonuses, there's only one that I really thought would be worthwhile otherwise, but because it's based around crit, which we do stat crit, which is going to be the Frost Shard of Domination, which it gives you Winds of Winter. So while you're in the Maw or Torghast, each time you deal a crit strike, winds accumulate 6% of that crit, up to a cap of 180 per crit strike, and then every 20 seconds the winds go out and they deal frost damage equal to whatever you've saved up. And then it surrounds you with winds for 20 seconds and absorbing 100% of the damage dealt. That sounds good too, but I feel like the primary stat that you're going to get from the Unholy Shard is just going to be too nice to not pick up. And then I'm really unsure the range on both of these. So if it's a shorter range for like the Winds of Winter, that kind of defeats the purpose of playing Marksman, so you definitely want to go with Unholy. But as it sets right now, I will be going Unholy. And then some of the other shards that I will be looking to pick up, since I'll have 3 Unholy and then 2 that aren't, one being one of the Frost Shards. So it just says your damage is increased by 3% for 20 seconds after attacking an enemy you have not yet damaged. Doesn't sound like a lot on a single target fight, but it's still increasing your damage by 3% when we're doing most of our damage possible, since we'll be running with careful aim at the beginning of a fight. And then the other one is going to be one of the Blood Shards, which is your damage is increased by 2% when you have 50 or more percent health than your target. So that won't really kick in for a while until your boss gets sub 50%, but it is nice to just continue to do more damage. And that's really what we're trying to do on our Marksman Hunter. And one last thing regarding the Shards of Domination, you do have to have a certain item slot filled with the correct gem to kind of activate the rune word if you are in raid. So for Unholy, it is the helm. That's the important one you want. If you're doing the Frost Shards, it's the shoulder, and then the chest is going to be for blood. And then you can upgrade each of the gem slots as well. So there are 5 ranks of those. And then they do sell a Soulfire Chisel as well. It costs 2,500 Stygia, at least as of recording this video, and you can pop those shards out at any time, and that chisel doesn't break, which is super awesome. And then all of the shards bonuses you get, they count for Mythic Plus, they count in PvP. Just about anywhere that you're doing something, you will get that boost. The one thing that doesn't follow you around everywhere, like Mythic Plus or anything outside of the Maw, Torghast, or the Raid, are going to be those set bonuses. So the Chaos Bane that I was talking about with the boost of primary stats, you only get that in the Raid, in Torghast, or in the Maw. But other than that, this is just going to be an increase in damage for everybody overall, slowly but surely. I will get more information out on this as soon as I figure out exactly what I'll be doing and I start getting my hands on these pieces of gear. But this should get you in a good direction to start out, and hopefully we can get a lot of these shards dropping into our bags very soon. As for consumables, main stat is still king. So for your flask, obviously you choose your agility flask. For pots, for pre-pots, which I guess they're really not pre-pots anymore, but I would choose agility as well. I prefer them. Food would be main stat, so agility. If you don't have those, if someone's not dropping a feast, I would suggest mastery is the second best. For gems, I would choose either critical strike or mastery. Same way goes for your enchants. The reason I would choose mastery in some spots is that I have 37% crit on my hunter right now. I feel like that's probably a little overkill. I would rather do, 0.8% more damage than have 0.5% more chance to crit. That's just me. That's kind of like min-maxing, but I would choose either one of those two. And then for your weapon enchant, I would use Shadow Core Oil, obviously, and then I would also use the Optical Target Embiggener. It gives you I think it's like 303 crit strike for 10 seconds. It actually procs quite a bit, and I actually prefer that, and it's much, much cheaper than the other options for your weapon. So last but not least, I have macros. I don't use too many of them, and you can pretty much copy them down exactly how you see them on the screen if you'd like to use them. Except for the counter shot, exhilaration, and kill shot, I just see right after tooltip, you need to do space and then that name if you want to see the tooltip. Otherwise, for the counter shot one there, that one is really good. It works if you have a focus or if you don't have a focus. For example, on the Council of Blood, if you need to interrupt Freyda, that is really good if you have her set as your focus, where you can keep targeting something else. It was really good for the first boss in Temple of Sethralis as well. Exhilaration there is basically if you need your heal really fast and you need to stop casting, it's just a stop casting macro there. Same way goes for kill shot. If it's very important and you're casting a steady shot and you have like one last second to use your kill shot or die, I would suggest making sure you can use that kill shot. And then misdirection, you can see there, that's just a targeting macro. There you see I'm targeting Zaft, which is my tank. There I would just change whatever my target would be, whether that be your pet, or whether that be the tank in your Mythic Plus or your Raid, and then it obviously casts your misdirection. And then finally is my True Shot macro that has my trinket and racial built in. It just has the tooltip of True Shot there, and then you see where it says use 14. 14 is the bottom trinket on your character sheet, and 13 is the top. It just depends on which one you're needing to use. And then of course I also have it set to my racial, which all of them share a 2-minute cooldown, so it's nice and perfect for what I'm trying to do. So thanks for checking out my video, guys. I really do appreciate it. It's a lot of fun to put these things together, and I really look forward to talking with you guys in the comments. Be sure and leave me some feedback. I'd love to hear about that. And if you'd like to check out my Twitch channel, it's twitch.tv/Mr. Eggplant. I do stuff over there, as well as hopefully coming back to YouTube and doing some streamings for my Raid, which I'm really excited for. I hope this helps you get better. My goal on my channel is always to help as many people as I possibly can, and to just get better each and every time I log into the game. Even though I've been playing this character for well over almost 14 years, I learn something new almost every time I log in. I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope it helps you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.